This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. Vice President Mike Pence visited the largest mosque in Southeast Asia Thursday during a trip to Indonesia. A day earlier, he addressed reporters at a press conference with Indonesian President Joko Widodo in Jakarta.
Oldest and most engaged defense partners. And under President Trump, we are firmly committed to continuing to collaborate on the security of both of our peoples. A stronger defense partnership will serve us well as we confront the various security threats and challenges that we now face. And of course, one of the greatest threats we face is the rise and spread of terrorism. Sadly, Indonesia is no stranger to this evil, nor is the United States of America, as the President and I discussed. The world watched with heartbreak in January of last year when ISIS-linked terrorists struck in central Jakarta in a barbaric suicide bombing. Our hearts broke for your people. This vile attack claimed the lives of 5 innocents, injured more than 24 others. What I can assure you and the people of Indonesia is that you had the condolences and the prayers of the American people as you confronted this tragedy.
While Vice President Mike Pence railed against ISIS-linked terrorism, a shocking new expose by longtime investigative journalist Alan Nairn has revealed backers of Donald Trump in Indonesia have joined army officers and a vigilante street movement linked to ISIS in an attempt to oust Indonesia's democratically elected president. Writing in The Intercept, Nairn reveals Indonesians involved in the coup attempt include a corporate lawyer working for the mining company Freeport-McMoran, which is controlled by Trump advisor Carl Icahn. Video has even emerged showing the lawyer at a ceremony where men are swearing allegiance to ISIS. According to Alan Nairn, 2 of the other most prominent supporters of the coup are close associates of Donald Trump: Fadli Zon, the vice speaker of the Indonesian House of Representatives, and Haritano, Trump's primary Indonesian business partner, who's building 2 Trump resorts, one in Bali and one outside Jakarta. Nairn's article is making waves in Indonesia. The Indonesian military is threatening legal action against the news portal Tirto.id after it published a partial translation of the article and ran a profile about Alan Nairn. In response, Nairn tweeted a message to the Indonesian military saying, quote, "Dear TNI, if you want to threaten brave Indonesian reporters and publishers, please threaten me too," unquote. Well, I recently sat down with Alan Nairn in our Democracy Now! Studio and asked him to outline what he's uncovered.
Indonesia is in the midst of a political crisis in that there is an attempt to stage what people on both sides of the conflict call the coup. And this is a de facto or even direct coup against the elected president, the elected government of Indonesia, which is headed by President Joko Widodo. Jokowi was the first person from outside the political elite who ever was elected president. He's on certain issues, in certain respects, he's a bit of a reformist. He got elected in important part because he speaks the language of the poor and people relate to him. He has been pushing social programs on health and education, but especially in recent months, his government has been fighting for survival. Those backing this coup project include the top generals in the country who are seeking to escape any whisper of accountability for their past mass murders that have been supported by the U.S., and for their ongoing atrocities in West Papua. Also, the friends and business partners and political associates of Donald Trump. The local Trump people in Indonesia, including his top political backer, the politician Fadli Zon, including his local business partner, Haritano, and others, have been funding and backing this coup movement. The instrument they have been using is what purports to be a radical Islamist street movement, which has been staging massive demonstrations on the streets of Jakarta, demonstrations drawing out hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions people, and their hook is what they claimed to be a religious issue, where they're attacking and demanding the death by hanging of the incumbent governor of Jakarta, who happens to be an ethnic Chinese Christian who is currently standing trial for insulting religion, for insulting Islam. And he could actually be sent to prison. And he's also currently standing for re-election. But this Islamist street movement is, in a sense, a front for the real powers, the real interests, which are trying to use the demonstrations and the attacks on Governor Ahok, that's his name, Ahok, to bring down the government of President Jokowi. I know this because for much of the past year, I've been talking to people within the Jokowi government and also people within the coup movement, and they've been describing what's happening as it goes along. The group that they are using to front the street demonstrations is called the FPI. The FPI is what are known in Indonesia as preman, street thugs. They were created by the Indonesian army and police shortly after the fall of Suharto in order to do killings.
U.S.-backed dictator.
Yes, in order to do repression and, when needed, killings on behalf of the army without the army having to take responsibility for it. And they would do it under the banner of radical Islam, kind of diverting attention from the fact of army and police sponsorship behind it. This group, the FPI, has been implicated in attacks on mosques. They frequently attack Islamic religious denominations that they do not agree with, attacks on churches, and murders, one of which in spectacular fashion was videotaped, and their mob is seen beating and kicking to death a man who's lying face down in the mud. They openly call for the hanging and murder of various politicians who displease them. They live day to day by, in addition to the funds they get from the army and the police, by extortion. They claim to be religiously compliant, but one of their key tactics over the years has been to go into strip clubs, go into bars. If the owners haven't been giving their weekly payoff to the FPI in a timely enough fashion, breaking the place up with heavy sticks, then taking the liquor and drinking it or reselling it. I mean, this is famous on the streets of Jakarta. Everybody knows about this. Another of their big activities has been evicting the poor. They would be rented out to army, police, rich developers, landlords, in order to violently evict poor people so that their homes could be demolished and used for other purposes. The group also happens to be listed by Western intelligence, including ASIO, the Australian intelligence service, as a violent extremist organization, the term they use for terrorists. And this happens to be one of the cases where their characterization of a movement as violent and extremist is accurate. This group FPI also has numerous connections to ISIS. The leader of the FPI militia is a lawyer who is a corporate lawyer for Freeport-McMoran, the giant U.S. mining corporation that is controlled by Carl Icahn, Donald Trump's good friend and White House deregulation advisor. This lawyer, his name is Munarman, he represents a local corporate front for Freeport, and he is there presiding over the militia, as the FPI militia, as they commit violence, and standing next to the FPI leaders as they call for the death by hanging of Jakarta's governors. This lawyer for Carl Icahn's Freeport was videotaped not long ago at an ISIS swearing ceremony, where he was one of two people presiding as a group full of young men swore allegiance to Abu Bakr Baghdadi, the leader of ISIS. The program of massive street demonstrations aimed at ultimately bringing down